Well, Kelly and Liu, we were people asking about process because they think that they must buy process now. And let's have a look at the weekly chart here. The weekly chart process just tells you, and this is quite an important thing. Although the chart is just a few months old, look at these big moves. But what I want to show to Kelly and Liu, can you see the move from suddenly the 9th of March? There was a little bit of a low and a lot of sell-off, and suddenly it just rallied up to 1,150 from 980. What is the important thing here? First of all, if you look at the technicals, remember this data is only for a few months because Process is a new company that's been listed. Only above this high, and that will be above 1,165 and 2 cents, it will give you a technical buy. But remember, I cannot use this as a stop loss because that's a little bit big. That's almost a 250 Rand stop loss. I will rather use this little dip there, and that is 1,135. That will be my stop loss, and the momentum, of course, can take it much higher. But there's something else that you need to keep in mind. If you've got a share in the top 40, especially some shares that is heavy weighted in the top 40, like a Naspers, a Process, or one of those companies that you know is a heavy weighting, like maybe an Anglo-American as well. If the world market sells off, when they start to turn around, the world needs to chase the market higher. What do? Irrespective of warnings or worries about future earnings, they come in and they buy the top 40, the heavyweights in the top 40, because they need to lift the index in conjunction with the world markets. So always remember, if you look for a market to turn around, either buy the physical index or buy the heavyweights in the index, because they will probably follow the gains or the losses, in the case of a sell-off, of the overseas counters. So I will say, Liu, you've got the levels there, there's your stop loss, and let's have a look. Well, let's have a look at Harmony. Solly wants to know about Harmony, and remember, the moment I start looking at a gold stock, I tend to go to a daily share price. Why? Because it tells me that a share price on a daily basis is almost more cyclical. And here you can see, I mean, this last 2 months, all the shares were cyclicals. The top was going up and everybody was happy. And suddenly within 2 months, all the shares became cyclical. Because, can you have a look here at Harmony? I can remember we were worried about this double top scenario. What worried me as well was this hammer right at the top. That told us that the share can go lower. But what happened now? It sold off from about 62 Rand. It went down all the way to 32 Rand. And now you're seeing what we call a beautiful, you can say a U-shaped recovery. And people will say that's a V, but for me it's a little bit deeper. So maybe a U. If you want to call it a V, nothing wrong with that. But where's the clue? The clue of this solid is actually in this dragonfly doji candle. That dragonfly doji candle tells me that there were some buyers around that bought in weakness. And you're looking for a buying opportunity, although the share went from 32 Rand to 45 Rand in a matter of 4 or 5 sessions. Let's have a look. There's the line. I want to draw it in there. And you can see. Just want to, there you are. It's the top of this hammer candle. Although the dragonfly was the clue already that somebody's buying, it went up, it came back, and it closed today or yesterday exactly at that level of 44.90. It closed above it at 45.93. So for me, it already gave a technical buying signal the moment it closed above that 44.90 level. So if you want to buy it solid, yes, you can still buy it. And remember, there's something interesting to me, and maybe I can show you guys. There's a little gap. So I'm quite positive that maybe we can see this gap closed. There you are. Let's have a look. There's the level. Just want to show the gap because sometimes people don't see the gap. There you are. I'm using this horizontal lines just to show you the gap. There it is. There you are. There's the gap. Now, a gap is always a place where there's an opening between the lower shadow and the higher shadow of the two candles. And this share can maybe all the way work it through to close this gap at the top. And that gap, sorry, is between 58 Rand 12 cents and 56 Rand 65. And if you want a stop loss, I'm going to give you two stop losses because I do not know if you are conservative or aggressive or what's your risk value or your risk profile. I'm going to use that as my one stop loss. That will be 38 Rand 59. And if you're a little bit more conservative, it can maybe be at 31 Rand and 6 cents. But for me personally, a 14 Rand stop loss on a gold counter is a little big. So let's hope that you're happy and you can maybe get it all the way to that top and close that gap. Let's have a look at Impala Platinum. Hugo asked about Impala Plats. And there's another thing, me and Christelle discussed it in the office. And what did we say? I said to her, when this market falls with such a vengeance, usually when it turns around, it comes also with a vengeance. And sometimes you're lucky to see a proper reversal setup before you can enter, because sometimes it's just one way to the top, out to chase the horses. But for me personally, Impala is one of those counters that actually gives me a proper clue. And as you know that I was short on the stock, and I went short at 100 Rand a few months ago. And I know somebody criticized me. The guy said to me, listen, Frans, but are you not taking your stop loss? I said, no, I'm not taking my stop loss. I sold it at 100 Rand. I topped up at 174 on that spinning candle and the bearish engulfing candle. And I bought it back just above 100 Rand and I made a profit. But why can I do that? Because I trade small enough not to take stop loss and to strategize. That's the important thing. If you have a position, and I always say to the pupil that is part of our speculation group and what we teach is, remember, if you take a position, then you must say, if you are right and it gives you a profit, you say thank you. But if you are wrong and you do not take a stop loss, you sit back and you say to yourself, what is my strategy? But there's only one difference. Remember, with a share, you can get a share like an Into Properties that just fall to pieces and can maybe go bankrupt, and then the company will give you a stop loss and you will lose your money. But on the other hand, if you think that the company will not go under, you can actually say to yourself, I've got a chance. Now, if I look at this Higu, share has already gained a little bit, and once again, I just said on the previous slide that the Dragonfly Doji was the clue. Now this is exactly the same. There was the sell-off. Look at this lower shadow. That tells you that there was some buying in weakness. There was a lower shadow as well. That also told you that they're doing that. What happened after this lower shadow? There was a doji. There was a little bit of a hammer. But there's the clue. A tiny little Dragonfly Doji again. That tells you that there was some informed buyers buying in weakness, and then suddenly the share took off. Now, your technical buy was already at 63 Rand 89 cents, and your stop loss here at that point in time was, if you bought it there, was 53 Rand 45. I think what we're seeing now, see a rally straight away. Maybe we can see a little bit of a pullback. But unfortunately, if you do want to buy, you can buy around these levels above 63.89, but stick to your tight stop loss, maybe of 53.45 or even 50 Rand and 5 cents. What's the important thing here? If you do miss the boat, and if you did not buy when it turned around, always say to yourself, in a market like this, there's at least 200 other shares that you can work through and find a place or a share to buy. Let's have a look. What can happen to Impala? There's also a little gap there at the top. Now let's have a look here. That little gap. And I just want to show you, there you are. There you can see clearly there's a little bit of a gap. Now that gap is between 117 Rand and 119 rand and 70 cents. So I think you have a little bit of a chance. Maybe we are fortunate to see the rand strengthening a bit, and when it gives us maybe another pullback and then up you go, then you can say, listen, I can climb in, unless, because I know some investors also climb in and they say they chase momentum. And let's have a look. There you are. Then at least you can say you go above this high of this shadow. That's the place where the resistance is. You want to buy above that. You can chase the momentum. I'm not a momentum chaser. I do not like that. But then you can buy above 83.78. But then I will use this horizontal line. And there you are. I will use that 63.89 as my stop loss to protect capital. Well, let's have a look at ShopRite. And Jar said he is a keen buyer of ShopRite. Why? Because while South Africa is in a lockdown mode, people will need to buy some food, and they will be keen to rush into the shops and buy. And you are quite right. Let's have a look here. On the weekly chart, on the daily chart, by the way, I just looked at it for somebody early this morning that's a subscriber to our services. There's a descending channel, but on a weekly chart, look what do we see? We see a falling wedge. Now, a falling wedge usually is a turnaround formation that tells you that the stock wants to go higher. Now, up here, if you want to buy it, it's on the point of giving you a buying signal, and that is at 120 rand and 10 cents. Now, it's quite simple. If you want to buy it, let's say that is your width of the wedge, you project it, it can take the share all the way up to 142 rand. So yes, you can buy above 120 rand and 10 cents, and you can maybe make use of your stop loss of 102 rand 73. For me, it's also a little bit big. I mean, that's almost an 18 rand stop loss. That's almost a 20% stop loss. That's massively big. So I would rather use this line there, to that little low point there, to use that as my stop loss, and that will be at 109 rand and 70 cents. And if it goes up, it can maybe go all the way. There's your first target, 127 rand 33 cents. And if it's there, 135.53, and right there you'll probably meet your target, and that's at 138 rand 81, and maybe on an overshoot 143.32. For me personally, there's many opportunities. ShopRite is just one of the opportunities, and see why I like the stock? Look at it. The price to earnings is 15. The dividend yield is at 2. And if you compare that maybe to a Clicks is at 35. And look at the chart right at the top. This one right at the bottom. So up here, enjoy your ShopRite. Maybe you're quite right in buying it. Thank you so much and enjoy us. And we'll talk again. And please visit our website www.fransdeklerk.com to see what we offer.